Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Trishe Namaha Nityanandam Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayane Kalo Kalmashanashaya Janava Pataye Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jayatam Shuruto Bangor Mamamanda Mater Gati Matsarvasva Padam Bojo Radha Madana Mohana Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadha Srimad Ratnagara Singhashanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Deva Preshtalabhi Sevyamano Smarami Shriman Rasarasarambi Vamshivata Tatakstitaha Karshana Venu Swanayar Gopir Gopinata Shriyestunaha Bhaktya Vihina Aparadha Lakshay Kshiptascha Kamari Taranga Madhye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable, beloved Gurudev, Nitya-lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad, Paramahansa Astatarasata Sri Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. Then I'm offering my same unlimited Dandavat pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable, beloved Siksha Gurudevs, Nitya-lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Ashtatara Shata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj and Nitya Lila Pravishna Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Ashtatara Shata Sri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And then I'm offering my Dandavat pranams to the lotus feet of all of my Shri Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga. And I'm offering my Dandavat pranams to all the Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavis. So, we're continuing with Sri Vilapa-kusumanjali, a bouquet of woeful entreaties, written by Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, and with the commentary of His Divine Grace, Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. We began to read the 7th verse yesterday, and we covered maybe about half of the purport. So we'll complete the other half before we move on. So the verse under discussion, verse number 7, I'm reading it again, and the translation. Ati utkatena nitaram virahana lena dandahyamana hridaya kilakapi dasi ha swamini kshanamiha pranayena gadham akrandanena vidhura vilapami padyaya. So you can repeat after me. Ati utkatena.
Ati utkatena.
Nitaram.
Nitaram.
Virahana lena.
Virahana lena.
Dandahyamana.
Dandahyamana.
Hridaya.
Hridaya.
Kilakapi dasi.
Kilakapi dasi.
Ha swamini.
Ha swamini.
Kshanamiha.
Kshanamiha.
Pranayena gadham.
Pranayena gadham.
Akrandanena.
Akrandanena.
Vidhura.
Vidura.
Vilapami.
Vilapami.
Padyai.
Padyai.
O Swamini, a certain maid servant, overwhelmed with love, and her heart always burning in the great fire of separation, laments in the following verses. Can you repeat? O Swamini,
O Swamini,
a certain maid servant,
a certain maid servant,
overwhelmed with love,
overwhelmed with love,
and her heart always burning
and her heart always burning
in the great fire of separation,
in the great fire of separation,
laments in the following verses.
laments in the following verses.
So, where we left off, Srila Gurudev had quoted 2 different verses from Sri Bilvamangal Thakur. And we did not quite complete here. So the second verse that he quoted, which is actually the very first verse of Sri Krishna Karnamrita, Srila Bilvamangal Thakur has used the words Jaya Shri. So here's the verse. Chintamanir Jayati Soma Girir Gurur Me Siksha Gurush cha Bhagavan Shiki Pincha Moli Yat Pada Kalpataru Pallava Shekareshu Lila Swayamvara Rasam Labate Jayashri. You can repeat. Chintamanir
Chintamanir
Jayati
Jayati
Somagirir
Somagir
Gurur
Guru
Me
Ne
Siksha Gurush
Siksha Gurush
Chabhagavan
Chabhagavan
Shiki Pincha Moli
Shinka Pincha Moli
Shiki
Shiki
Pincha
Pincha
Moli
Moli
Yat Pada
Yatpada
Kalpataru
Kalpataru
Pallava
Pallava
Shekareshu
Shakareshu
Lila
Lila
Swayamvara
Swayamvara
Rasam
Rasam
Labate
Labate
Jayashri.
Jayashri.
So Gurudev is introducing this verse because he's saying that in this very first verse of Krishna Karanamrita, Srila Vilapa-kusumanjali Thakur has used the words Jayashri. So we see that's at the end. Here's the translation. All glories to Chintamani. And here in parentheses it says Vartma Pradarshak Guru. All glories to Chintamani and to my holy master Somagiri, who is Diksha Guru. All glories to my instructing master Bhagavan Shri Krishna, who is Siksha Guru, who wears peacock feathers on his head. That's what Shiki Pincha Moli means. So he's offered his obeisances to first who?
Chintamani.
And what is her role?
She directed him on the path.
Mm-hmm. So then he offers obeisances to Somagiri, Gurur. That means that he's his Diksha Guru. And then Siksha Gurush cha Bhagavan. My Siksha Guru is Bhagavan Shiki Pincha Moli, who wears the peacock feathers on his head. So, under the shade of his lotus feet, this Bhagavan, which are like desire trees, whose toenails are like new petals, Jaya Shri Radhika enjoys the mellows of transcendental pastimes. So, where is she enjoying the mellows? Huh?
At his lotus feet here.
Under the shade of his lotus feet, which are like desire trees, whose toenails are like new petals. There Jaya Shri Radhika enjoys the mellows of transcendental pastimes. Gurudev is describing. Krishna is so beautiful. His mouth, eyes, nose, hands, and all parts of his transcendental form are beautiful. Although Krishna's feet are not as beautiful as his face, in the beginning Vilapa-kusumanjali Thakur has only described the beauty of his feet. He says, his feet are like lotuses, and his toes are like lotus petals. To the rays emanating from the tips of his toenails, Radhika is offering artik. She's offering artik to what?
The tips of his toenails.
The rays, not the tips. The rays emanating from the tips of his toenails. She is offering artik. We, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, do not want to hear these things. For those with the same mood as Vilapa-kusumanjali Thakur, the shloka is very beautiful, undoubtedly. However, we would be more interested and pleased if he had written that Krishna is offering arti to Srimati Radhika. Instead, he writes that she is offering arti and she is so pleased, as if she is choosing her husband and giving him a garland when they first meet. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the mood of Srimati Radhika, and therefore he relished Sri Krishna Karnamrita. But we should try to see what Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Swarup Damodar, and Srila Roy Ramananda have said, not what Radhika has said or what Krishna has said. This is not our goal. Our goal is to perform service like the Manjaris or like the Sakhis, not like Radhika. Radhika always wants to hear Krishna's name, and Krishna wants to hear Radhika's name. But we must follow in the proper channel. So now, the next section is titled, We Should Follow This Path. So Srila Raghunath Das Goswami has written Sri Vilapa-kusumanjali for who? Who has he written it for? Who has Raghunath Das Goswami written this entire book, Vilapa-kusumanjali? Who has he written it for? Huh?
Well, I mean, he knew it was going to go out, but to Rupa?
Sadhaks who aspire for Madhura Ras?
Huh?
The sadhakas who aspire for Madhura Ras?
No. Yes. Every single verse is for Radhika. Vilapa-kusumanjali, his Vilap is for Radhika. So Gurudev is trying to stress here that we are not following the path like Bilvamangal Thakur. We are following the path of Raghunath Das Goswami, and he has written Sri Vilapa-kusumanjali for Srimati Radhika, not for Krishna. In Sri Sankalpa Kalpa Druma, verse 1, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also prays to Radhika. So this is another book, Sankalpa Kalpa Druma. Actually, Gurudev has given us that in English. So, and now Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also prays to Radhika. Here's the verse. Vrindavaneshvari vayo guna rupa lila so bhagya keli karuna jaladhe vadehi dasi bhavani sukayani sada kantam tvam alibi parivritam idam eva yache. Here's the translation. O Queen of Brindavan. That's his very first statement in the very first verse. O Queen of Brindavan, O ocean of mercy, playfulness, good fortune, transcendental pastimes, beauty, virtue, and youthfulness. My prayer to you, who are always in the company of your friends. My prayer to you is that let me be your maid servant, and I will always please you by serving you when you are with Krishna. I beg this of you. So in his own Sankalpa Kalpa Druma, well, there's two Sankalpa Kalpa Drumas. One is by Jiva Goswami. So, in his own Sankalpa Kalpa Druma, Srila Jiva Goswami has also prayed to Srimati Radhika. And all our Goswamis have done the same. This is the speciality of our Sampradaya, and we should follow this path. When we pray to Srimati Radhika, somehow Krishna himself will come in a hidden way and try to hear. What will happen if we try to pray to who? then what will happen?
Krishna will come in a hidden way to try and hear.
Yes. So, in this 7th shloka, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami is using the word ha, meaning alas. Alas. He is praying in lamentation. Hey Karuna Sagara, O ocean of mercy, I am so distressed because you are not looking towards me. And similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has prayed. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has prayed, Gopavesha, Venukara, Navakishore, Natavara. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 21. Mahaprabhu is saying, you are a very beautiful Kishore with a flute in hand, calling the gopis to meet in Brindavan. Gopavesha, Venukara, Navakishore, Natavara. So Srila Raghunath Das Goswami has so much eagerness, and he has heard about all the sweet glories of Radhika, her qualities, his movements, and the sweetness of her mercy. He therefore becomes mad. Unmad means to do something that by ordinary standards is wrong. Unmad. That which is right, we can do, and that is our natural position. However, when we lose that thinking and we do anything not to be done, that is called unmad. Premonmada vashada shesha dashaya. In the Sad Goswami Astakam, this word unmad. Prem unmad. So, one should not sit on Krishna's shoulders, but the gopis can do so in unmad. Understand? It's not proper. But because of praying, they've gone completely mad. So, one should not sit on Krishna's shoulders, but the gopis can do so in unmad. They can order him about as they desire. This is called unmad. Okay, so now the next section is madness in love's absorption. Madness, unmad. When Krishna left the gopis during Ras Leela, they were thinking about his movements and everything about him. By such continuous thinking, they became mad. And they began to imitate him. Each and every gopi thought, only I am Krishna, and all the gopis are all my beloveds. So in his Ananda Vrindavan Champu, Sri Kavikarnapur explains how it happened that each gopi thought herself to be Krishna and saw the others as Putana, Agasur, or Bakasur. One's attachment is never directed to something in which one has no taste. Is that true or not true? If you analyze anyone's attachment to anything, what precedes that?
Taste.
Some taste for it. Then comes attachment. So, he's saying, Ananda Vrindavan Champu, that one's attachment is never directed to something in which one has no taste. One will only develop attachment and tadatmya bhav, feeling of oneness, to that which is anukul, favorable, and in which one has taste. So what will one develop?
Attachment by...
Yeah, but he's specifically saying tadatmya bhav, feeling of oneness. So, and one will only develop attachment and tadatmya bhav, feelings of oneness, to that which is anukul, favorable, and in which one has taste. So anything that is pratikul, unfavorable, it will never become the object of one's attachment or one's remembrance. Right? Something's unfavorable, we don't think about it, we don't become attached to it. Therefore, the gopis cannot remember and be attached to Putana. Because Putana is pratikul to the gopis' bhav. It is not possible for them to become unmad and feel oneness with her. They will only be attached to Krishna's activities. Yet we see, in reenacting the Putana Leela, that one gopi threw down another, climbed upon her breast, and took the breast of that other gopi in her mouth. The one acting as Krishna is a gopi, and the one acting as Putana is also a gopi, but she is not attached to the mood of Putana. The gopi lying down is also feeling like a gopi, but the other is thinking that she is Putana. So Kavi Karnapur is explaining that where it seems that a gopi is lying down as Putana, that gopi is not there. That gopi is not there. Let's see what this means. Kavi Karnapur is explaining that where it seems that a gopi is lying down as Putana, that gopi is not there. Because the gopis, they will not accept Putana bhav. Those gopis acting as Putana and other demons were created artificially by Yogamaya. Did you ever hear that before? This is a very mysterious thing. That's why he's saying that it seems that where it seems that a gopi is lying down as Putana, that gopi is not there. Because the gopis, they will not accept Putana bhav. Those gopis acting as Putana and other demons, they were created artificially by Yogamaya. Because the gopis cannot act as Putana or the other demons. They're all completely pratikul and against their bhav. This is a very important thing, Gurudev is saying, to know this. And it is difficult to understand from reading the descriptions of this pastime in Srimad Bhagavatam. When something pratikul to the gopis is required in a leela, what is pratikul? Unfavorable. So when something that is pratikul to the gopis is required in a leela, Yogamaya makes the arrangements. She is doing everything. She is helping them. And the gopis are thinking, I'm Krishna, I'm Krishna, I'm Krishna, and performing all the leelas. So when the gopis heard Krishna's flute song and left their houses and their husbands in the dead of night, the real gopis came to Krishna, and then Yogamaya expanded as duplicate gopis to stand by the side of their husbands. What happened? Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Govinda Ji Ki Jai. Jai Jai Shri.
Question, does that mean that the gopis in that enacting Krishna Lila, they observed that they're in their midst, there were some gopis there that weren't their friends, and they just went to those gopis only, except not their friends, the ones that were creations of Yogamaya?
That we'll have to hear the explanation, or we can speculate all we want. But we won't come up with the right understanding that way. All we know is that he's giving two examples. One example is a gopi suddenly appears, who made by Yogamaya specifically for the enactment of that pastime of the gopi, who's saying, I'm Krishna and you are Putana. Okay, that's what we know. And we also know that, when the gopis heard Krishna's flute song, and they left their houses and their husbands in the dead of night, the real gopis came to Krishna. And Yogamaya expanded as duplicate gopis to stand by the side of their husbands. So similarly, this was the case here. All the gopis who played the parts of Putana, Agasur, Bakasur, Kaliya, and so forth were imitations created by Yogamaya. This is very important, Gurudev is saying, to understand this. But you won't understand it just by reading directly the verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Why? Because the acharyas have to reveal this more and more deeply. So, Sri Kavi Karnapur has also revealed something else about this Ras Lila. What is that? When the gopis were imitating Krishna, Krishna himself had entered the gopis' hearts, and he was the actual performer of his own pastimes. As what? Tadatnya Bhav. The next line will explain more. The gopis were thinking, we are doing, right? They're thinking that we are doing. But actually Krishna was acting. Here, there was no action of Yogamaya. Krishna himself was doing everything. Yes. And so, in which circumstance? During the Ras Lila, when the gopis were imitating Krishna, they were imitating him, we just heard, right? I'm Krishna, I'm Krishna. Then Krishna himself had entered the gopis' hearts and was the actual performer of his own pastimes as Tadatmya Bhav. So the gopis were thinking, we are doing, but actually Krishna was acting. So here there was no action of Yogamaya. Krishna himself was doing everything. Just see how mysterious Krishna's pastimes. And how mysteriously Yogamaya, always, Yogamaya is arranging everything. Without Yogamaya, no pastimes can happen, right? So, now we're also hearing that although the gopis were thinking that they're doing, when they're in their mad state of unmad, and they're imitating Krishna, and they feel like oneness with Krishna. I am Krishna. But here, Kavi Karnapur has said, actually Krishna entered their hearts, and then he enacted that pastime. They were thinking, we are doing it, but no, actually Krishna was doing. So mysterious. Amazing, huh? Now, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has made a similar point in this connection. When Krishna entered the gopis' hearts, when? When the gopis were enacting, thinking that I am Krishna. So when Krishna entered the gopis' hearts, his 6 opulences, what are his 6 opulences? Aishwarya, wealth. I'll say the Sanskrit, you say the English. Aishwarya,
Well,
virya,
Strength.
strength. Yasha, yasha,
Pronunciation.
fame. Yes, just like in Shri Guru Charana Padma, at the very end, Eve Yash Gushuk Tribhuvan. May your fame be spread all over the 3 worlds. So Yash means fame. And the word Yashoda comes from that word, that base. She who gives fame, Yashoda. So, next is Shri. Mhm. Next is Gyan, that's not hard. And next is Vairagya. Okay. So when Krishna entered the gopis' hearts, his 6 opulences fully manifested in them. Wow. Oh. How is that? That all of Krishna's 6 opulences fully manifested in them. My God. Because Krishna was there, everything was there. Although they were merely imitating Krishna's pastimes, because Krishna was present, they had the power to lift Govardhan hill and dance on the heads of Kaliya. If Govardhan were there, they could certainly have lifted him. The reverse is also true. What would the reverse be of this? We're all confused now. The reverse. The reverse is also true. If the gopis are in Krishna, Krishna can act. Just like he just said that Krishna is in the gopis, right? So therefore they can act. But actually Krishna is doing. So now he's saying the reverse is also true. If the gopis are in Krishna, Krishna can act. Otherwise he cannot. His abilities are the effect of the gopis' Shakti, power. You know, I mean, we've heard Gurudev telling about who actually lifted Govardhan, right? Who? How?
Shakti.
How is it that she actually lifted Govardhan? You got to explain this one. You can't just say 1 or 2 words. You have to explain how it is that Srimati Radhika lifted Govardhan.
But she is the potency of Krishna.
So?
The internal potency of Krishna.
Yeah.
If there's no potency, then nothing can happen.
Krishna doesn't have ability separate from his Shakti?
Well, he's potent, but he can't take the form until Shakti is there.
The form, what form?
That Shakti produces. All the varieties of everything, including his own form, isn't it?
No. His form is not Shakti. There's only 2 things that exist in the entire creation. Do you know what those 2 things are?
Shaktiman and Shakti?
Yes. That's all. There's nothing else that exists in the entire creation except for Shakti, the power, the energy, and Shaktiman, the energetic. And if we say that Krishna is supremely independent, that means that he's the controller of all Shakti. He's not depending on Shakti, he's independent. that we learn in the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudev Janmad Yasya Yato Anvayad Itaratas Charteshu Avigya Swarat. He is Swarat. That means independent. So we have to try to understand here what is really being told. Gurudev is telling it in a very clear and simple way, but even though it's clear and simple, we still have to try to comprehend this. So, as I'm telling it, I'm trying to comprehend it. So, now, I'm going to read this again. Because we just heard that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has made a similar point as Kavi Karnapur made, and that is that when Krishna entered the gopis' hearts, then his 6 opulences, they fully manifested in the gopis. And because Krishna was there, everything was there. Although they were merely imitating Krishna's pastimes, because Krishna was present, they actually had the power to lift Govardhan Hill and dance on the heads of Kaliya, because they're imitating Krishna. But Krishna himself is actually there, fully, and he's doing that, right? So if Govardhan were there, they could certainly have lifted him. And again, I'm mentioning the question, because Gurudev has told us that actually Srimati Radhika lifted Govardhan. And so, let's read on a little, and we'll see. Now, the reverse is also true. If the gopis are in Krishna, like Krishna can be in the gopis, then Krishna can act. Otherwise, he cannot. His abilities are the effect of the gopis' Shakti, their power. The gopis are Swarup Shakti. Now we're going to hear some explanation here. The gopis are Swarup Shakti, and therefore whatever Krishna does is actually done by the gopis. Every quality and every power in Krishna are those of the gopis. They don't reveal this, however. Otherwise, the pastimes cannot continue. Yashoda can do everything. She can do everything. Yashoda. The Sakas can kill lakhs and lakhs of Kamsas, Agasuras, Bakasuras, and all others. But they do not exercise their power. And this is also true for the gopis. The demon, Shankachuda, you know that pastime. He took Srimati Radhika on his shoulders and ran away. And Srimati Radhika and the gopis were crying. Why were they crying? Because it was Nara Leela. Human-like Leela. If they wanted to exercise their power, they could have done so. So the gopis, they have all qualities, everything that Krishna has. In fact, they have more than Krishna. In fact, they have more than Krishna. I wonder what the GBC were thinking when they're hearing all of this. So, they can defeat him, and they can control him. Srimati Radhika is more beautiful than Krishna, and more powerful than him. Once Krishna wanted to wrestle with Srimati Radhika. Where was that? Bandirvat. In the place Bandirvan and the tree Bandirvat. So many leelas took place there. Very prominent place in Braj. So this is all this story about the wrestling is always told there at that place. So once Krishna wanted to wrestle with Srimati Radhika. She challenged him. She challenged him. You can come. You can come. We will see who is defeated and who is the winner. So she tied up her clothes and she became ready to fight. Krishna came forward and she defeated him. All were clapping. Radhika had taken away all of Krishna's power and he had become weak. Govardhan thought that Krishna lifted him. That's what Govardhan was thinking. I'm being lifted by Krishna. But actually Srimati Radhika had done so because she is the power of Krishna. Krishna is the guru of the whole world. But the praying guru of Krishna is Radhika. He also learns from Lalita, Vishaka, Chitra, especially from Lalita. He also learns. But Krishna is so high. It is only by praying that he is defeated. He is Advai Gyan Paratattva, the non-dual absolute truth. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 2nd chapter, 1st canto, it is written, Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajnanam advayam. Those who are tattvavit, they realize that non-dual absolute truth in 3 aspects. This is the famous verse. Brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shantyate. But this is beginning before that is stated. Vadanti tat tattvavidas. So tattvavida means one who fully knows tattva, the absolute truth. They've realized. So vadanti, what do they say? Vadanti means they say about that absolute truth that they have realized. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajnanam advayam. This is where the term Advai Gyan Paratattva comes. And Gurudev very much stressed this when he was first teaching about this. Advai Gyan. What does Advai mean? Non-dual. He's only one absolute supreme. There is no duality in him. One substance. Advai Gyan Paratattva. Supreme truth. Supreme reality. He is that. Okay? So, those who are tattvavit realize that non-dual absolute truth in 3 aspects. Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. So, everything is in Krishna. But still he shows that I am defeated by the gopis. And he also admits this. So this is very mysterious what we're discussing, what Gurudev is telling here. Because one thing I just want to mention in relation to this. I talk with Gaur Sundar Prabhu about this from time to time. If someone thinks that Krishna is, even though Gurudev will say that without Srimati Radhika, without his power, Krishna is what? Nirvishesh. Okay? So, neophyte devotees, unfortunately, they try to jump and try to understand this. And there is a very, very great fault, which is actually aparad, that they draw this conclusion that actually Srimati Radhika is the supreme absolute truth, and Krishna is subordinate to her. But is that the fact in Tattva? Never. Never. It's so far away from the actual Tattva that is given in Srimad Bhagavatam all throughout the 12 cantos that anyone can say that. But yet when Gurudev is saying it, This is in relation to what? Rasa. By rasa, not by tattva. Krishna by tattva is supreme. Matak parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya. He says in Bhagavad Gita, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. This is the fact. But what is being told here is from a higher perspective of rasa tattva. By that perspective, the energy which is always subordinate to, just like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, that there is the predominating moiety and the predominated moiety. They're not one. That position is always there, predominated. And that's why we, jivas, who are the Shakti of Krishna, Jiva Shakti, that's why we are all this eternal servants of Krishna. Huh? Only when we come into the realm of rasa and Krishna's sweet pastimes in Braj, then he becomes subordinate. But that's only because of prem. No other reason. It's only because of prem. So in the land of prem, like these amazing things we're just hearing, that the gopis can do everything. Krishna enters their heart, but then the gopis also enter Krishna's heart. Then he's able to do what he does. So it's mysterious. It's not so easy to understand this, you know. Anyway, then everything is in Krishna. Everything's in him. Everything. Why? Because aham sarvasya prabhavo. The 4 key verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. Matak sarvam pravartate. I am the source of everything. From me, everything has emanated. The entire creation has come from me. So, everything is in Krishna. But still he shows that I am defeated by the gopis. And he also admits this. So this is in the realm of rasa. Now, returning to our original point, Gurudev is saying, returning to our original point, when praying or chanting Harinam, we should realize some vipralamba bhav. If we have no mood of separation, then we will have to gradually develop this bhav through the execution of sadhana. Is that our position? Yes. We have no mood of separation, but we will have to gradually develop this bhav through the execution of sadhana. That is the advantage. We know what sadhana that we're supposed to do, and gradually that bhav will be developed. What bhav? Separation, vipralamba. Now, by reading about these pastimes, something will enter our hearts. That's why we're reading them, is it not? Otherwise, there are also restrictions for reading these on certain levels, to certain levels. There are restrictions by our acharyas. But Gurudev is saying, by reading about these pastimes, something will enter our hearts, and someday we will experience all these things. Realization also comes by remembering Sri Gurudev. Realization also comes. We should always remember Gurudev and also Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Both should always remember. If we do not understand the mercy of Gurudev, then we cannot understand anything. If you are getting something new from me, Gurudev is telling to them, then you can also remember me. Huh? Just see how Gurudev is so kind. He's informing them who have no real proper understanding, and proved it later on, of what is Guru and Guru Tattva. But Gurudev is telling them that if you are getting something new from me, then you can also remember me. Lobha mul sadhan bhajan. Hear the words, Lobha mula. It means greed for rag bhakti. Lobha mul. Greed for rag bhakti. Our sadhan bhajan should be mixed or enriched with this. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami is crying and crying, but we are not shedding even one teardrop. We are dry. Raghunath Das Goswami has called out, "O my Swamini." This use of the word Swamini indicates the sweet relationship he has with Srimati Radhika. He is saying, "My Swamini." He has also written in the Manasiksha, this verse number 9, Madisha na tatve vraja vipina chandram vrajavane swarim tan na tatve tad atula sakitve tu lalitam vishakam sikshali vitarana gurutve priya saro girindro tat preksha lalita rati datve smara mana. He's telling his mind, "O mind, always remember Vrindavan Chandra, Shri Krishna, as the life and soul of my mistress, Srimati Radhika." So here, this is the point that Gurudev is making. So, Krishna is remembered in relation to who? His Swamini, Raghunath Das Goswami Swamini. He does not see him separately. He's saying to his mind, always remember Vrindavan Chandra Shri Krishna as the life and soul of my mistress, Srimati Radhika. That's the first statement he says. Mad Isha na tatve. Vraja vipina chandra vrajavane. That is telling that. Then, the next he says, Vrindavaneshwari Shri Radha, I want you, O my mind, to always remember her, Vrindavaneshwari Shri Radha, as his mistress, or my Swamini. Remember Shri Lalita as the peerless friend of my Swamini. Shri Vishaka, remember her as the instructing tutor in teaching all the gopis, in making arrangements of service to the divine couple. Who? Vishaka. As Siksha Guru. He says, Vishakam Sikshali Vitarana Gurutve Priyasaro. Then he says to his mind, remember Sri Vishaka as the instructing tutor in teaching all the gopis, in making arrangements of service to the divine couple, and Radha Kunda and Giriraj Govardhan, remember them as those who grant vision of Sri Radha Krishna and bestow sublime love for their lotus feet. Yes, Giriraj and Radha Kunda. So, O Srimati Radhika, here's how Gurudev is paraphrasing this verse now. O Srimati Radhika, you are my supreme worshipful deity. You are my Natha. Natha means Swamini, mistress. If anyone asks me who is Krishna, Raghunath Das is saying, if anyone asks me who is Krishna, I will only say that he is the Prananath of my Ishwari, Srimati Radhika. That's his identity. He's my Swamini's Prananath. See? Our Ishwari, Gurudev is telling, our Ishwari is Srimati Radhika, and Krishna is her Prananath. He is therefore worshipable for us. Why? Because he's the Prananath of Srimati Radhika. That's why he's worshipable for us. But our main worshipable deity is Srimati Radhika. Our relationship with Krishna is through her. So, this is a very big point. I mean, Srila Gurudev, in his introductory verses, is giving so much to prepare the readers. But, I mean, in that situation, he was speaking to the ISKCON leaders. And just see what treasure, what jewels he's giving. But they could not fully appreciate. If they did, there would have been a completely different history. So, Lalita Devi. Now in this verse, Lalita is mentioned. That Lalita Devi is very near and dear to Srimati Radhika, and therefore she is also worshipable by us. See, everything is in relation to our relationship with Srimati Radhika. Of course, we hope one day that will dawn in our hearts. So, Vishaka, who is born on the same day as Radhika, is named after her and is no less qualified. Lalita is also known as Anuradha, and Vishaka is also known as Radha. Lalita and Vishaka only have honor and appreciation for something if it has relation to Srimati Radhika. We should also be like this. We should also be like this. And we should see whether something is related to her or not. Suppose that one girl is coming from Nandagram and another is coming from either Yavat or Varshana. We will prefer the one from Yavat because she is coming from Srimati Radhika and the other is coming from Krishna, from Nandagaon. We will first inquire about Radhika, then Krishna. A Rupanuga Bhakta will always give preference to Srimati Radhika. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami is praying, quote, I am lying on the bank of your Radha Kunda, taking nothing to eat or drink, and always weeping and chanting, Radhe, Radhe. I think that someday or other you will have to give me your mercy. This is what he's saying, lying on the bank, weeping and weeping. And he's telling that I can only chant your name, weeping and chanting, Radhe, Radhe. So he says, you will have to give me your mercy. If you don't, then I have no need of Krishna's mercy. If you, Radhika, don't give me your mercy, I have no need of Krishna's mercy. Radha Kunda's mercy or any other mercies, any other person's mercy, I will also no longer want to live here. He's saying, if you don't give me your mercy, Srimati Radhika, then I have no need of Krishna's mercy, or Radha Kunda's mercy, or any other's mercy. I will also no longer want to live here. In this way, he is crying. That verse that we read, and the next verse especially, so much filled with lamentation and separation. So this is the final paragraph of Gurudev's commentary on this 7th verse. He is saying that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada has written, he has written that Sambhog and Vipralamba are standing side by side eternally. What is that?
Meeting and separation.
Are doing what?
Standing side by side eternally. They're always
yes,
right with each other.
And he says, they are standing side by side eternally, forever, for endless time. Only a person who has some realization of Vipralamba, only such a person can taste and forever enjoy Sambhog Leela, meeting pastimes. One who has no taste of Vipralamba, separation, cannot enjoy Sambhog Leela, meeting. The main object and the ultimate goal of our sadhan bhajan is to realize Vipralamba Bhav. I'm repeating this sentence. The main object, the ultimate goal of our sadhan bhajan is to realize Vipralamba Bhav. Repeat after me. The main object and the ultimate goal of our sadhan bhajan is to realize Vipralamba Bhav. If Vipralamba is achieved, we can realize everything else.
We can realize everything else.
What is that? If Vipralamba is achieved, then what?
We can realize everything else.
And what is the main object and goal of our sadhan bhajan? Is to realize Vipralamba Bhav. And if Vipralamba Bhav is achieved, then what?
We'll realize everything else.
Yes, we can. We become capable of realizing everything else. Yes. And that's how Gurudev is ending this amazing purport.
Wow.
On the 7th verse. Then the next verse, I'm just reading it so you can get a little preview. Here, in the next verse, verse number 8, which is now the real beginning of all of his prayers in separation from Srimati Radhika. He says, O Devi, please rescue this unfortunate person drowning in an ocean of pain. Place him on the strong boat of your mercy. Place him on what?
The strong boat
of your mercy. And carry him to the wonderful realm of your lotus feet. Devi dukkha kula sagaro dare duyamanam ati durgatam janam tvam kripa prabala no kayad bhutam prabhaya swapada pankajalaya. Devi dukkha kula sagaro dare. This unfortunate person, ati durgatam janam, so unfortunate, he's feeling himself. He is drowning in an ocean of pain. So please place him on the strong boat of your mercy. Tvam kripa prabala nokayat bhutam. Nokayat bhutam means amazing, strong boat. Adbhuta noka. Noka means boat. And tvam kripa prabala. Your very strong boat of your mercy. Prabala. Kripa prabala. Prapayasva padapankajalayam. Carry him to the wonderful realm of your pankajalayam, padapankaja, of your lotus feet. So, what have we understood? What have we understood?
Well, of course, the conclusion is that Raghunath Das Goswami is entreating Srimati Radhika, and that entreaty is in the mood of Vipralambha Bhav. And so, by hearing this deeply, then we can understand that we also have to have this mood, which will be achieved as the goal of our sadhana bhajana, to realize that and everything else.
You know, we've heard it throughout what we read tonight. What is the proper mood that we should have? This proper mood is actually called Rupanuga. We have heard it very clearly stated tonight by our Gurudev. He has quoted from Manasiksha in so many different places, and he has made it crystal clear. Because Raghunath Das Goswami, he is the first and most prominent of all Rupanugas. Because Rupa and then the word Anuga. Do you know the meaning of the word Anuga? This you should know. Rupanuga, Rag Anuga, Anugatya. Anuga means follower. A person who follows Rupa Goswami and Rupa Manjari. Gurudev has spoken about this a lot. We'll hear more in this book. But Rupanuga, Gurudev said, many people can say that they are Rupanuga, but unless someone follows in the footsteps of Rupa Raghunath, Raghunath Das Goswami is the ultimate Rupanuga, follower of Rupa Goswami. And Rupanuga really means the mood of the Manjaris, that Krishna is the Pradhanath of our Swamini. They don't have a separate relationship with Krishna. Everything is in relation to their relation, to that person's relationship with their Swamini. Is such an important point. Yeah.
One thing I forgot to mention, that these entreaties, even though the word wasn't exactly used, it actually is such a strong current, is the need for humility, because entreaty means you cannot do that unless there's utter humility, unless there can't be the feeling of separation. And it's just that admission.
Yeah. But how are you going to admit unless you have really experienced and understood that you are the most unfortunate person? That's why our acharyas can even write this in their songs, like the Mangalartik song, or the Tulsi Parikrama song, right? Abhaga Keshava Kohe Yes. Abhaga Keshava Kohi. So, the unfortunate Keshava. The disciples, they never think like that. So therefore they wrote another line, Sri Keshava Das Kohi. See? But he is writing that he is unfortunate, just like Raghunath Das Goswami is just told in this next verse that we're going to be reading. He says, "O Devi, please rescue this unfortunate person drowning in an ocean of pain." See? So this is all very, very real. And in order for us to even get a tiny glimpse of what Raghunath Das Goswami Pad may be feeling, what Rupa Goswami may be feeling, we will have to become quite familiar. This is a very, very essential. At a certain stage in the devotee's life, they will all have to hear this. How invaluable this is. Srila Prabhupada did not speak about this, did he?
He mentioned, just certainly the need for humility and in teachings of Lord Chaitanya, he just touched.
No, he's mentioned the need for humility. But did he explain how in detail, like we're hearing right now?
Oh, no.
The mood of Raghunath Das Goswami is, you see?
It even took over 20 years for this to even be published.
Well, yeah, but the main point is that this is for devotees who are now on the threshold and have some, like Gurudev said, some appetite. When you're hungry, then food is very tasteful and relishable. But if someone doesn't have appetite, then it's not so much. So Gurudev was telling this to the ISKCON leaders years ago, that I am noticing now in some of you, disciples of Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, that some appetite is coming. And that's why Gurudev agreed to instruct them. And you can see how carefully he's laying the platform to be able to understand. So fortunate to have this. And we will see when we reach the 104th verse, the final verse of Sri Vilapa-kusumanjali, how this has enriched us. Because Gurudev is saying, at least if we read, that's what he just said. Yes, he said, okay, I can't find it right now. Oh yeah, here he says. So, returning to our original point, this is the last thing I'll say, then we'll end the class. Returning to our original point, when praying or chanting Harinam, we should realize some Vipralambha Bhav. And if we have no mood of separation, we will have to gradually develop this Bhav through the execution of sadhana. By reading about these pastimes, something will enter our hearts, and someday we will experience all these things. Realization also comes by remembering Sri Gurudev. We should always remember Gurudev and also Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If we do not understand the mercy of Gurudev, then we cannot understand anything. If you are getting something new from me, you can also remember me. Jai Gurudev ki jai. Shri Vilapa-kusumanjali ki jai, Shri Raghunath Das Goswami Pada ki jai, Shri Rupa Goswami Pada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Gurudev ki jai, Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga ki jai, Sachinandan Gaura Hari ki jai, Shri Nityananda Mahajana ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Vansha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhu eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo.